Hi, and welcome to Business Unusual, where we talk about what happens when business unusual becomes business as usual. I'm Liz Whitehead, co-mastermind at Diversity Masterminds, and I'm here with Heather Cox.
Hello, the other co-mastermind at Diversity Masterminds.
And our guest today is David Ricciardi. Hi, David.
Hello, Liz. Hello, Heather. How you doing?
Hello, I'm good. I'm so happy you're here. This is going to be so fun.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So we're going to get into, like I talked about, business unusual. But before we do that, tell us a little bit about you and Proximo.
So let's see. Where do I begin? I'll start with both of us then. So I am president and CEO of Proximo. I'm the founder. We've been in business for 23 years now, and we deal with all things related to data analytics, data warehousing, data strategy, data governance. So I have to say we're really nerd out on stuff like that. But that's a lot of everything we do with our customers revolves around something to do with data and analysis.
Excellent. So we're going to talk about this particular time too, business unusual. But before we do that, you've been in business for 23 years. So did you have anything that prepared you at least a little bit for what we're going through now with COVID?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, there's been nothing quite like this, of course,
Right.
But there are areas where there has been something similar, like economic recessions. We've been around long enough where we hit the dot-com bust, 9/11, we hit the 2008 recession, and now we've got this one here. So, and each one of them, has been a little different than the others, but really you always wind up with a time in your business where you're really unsure of what's going to happen. You've got employees that are unsure, well, am I going to have my job? You're not sure if what clients are going to cut back. And, so there are similarities there, and we're able to draw upon some of our experience, like what to do and what not to do during those times. So I think that has helped us out, just that longevity and that experience.
Cool. What are some of the things to do and not do, or what are some of the things that you think made a difference?
Yeah, I think, you want to do a couple of things. First of all, you don't want to panic. That's one thing. Panic doesn't help anybody, okay? But that doesn't mean you just want to pretend nothing's going on. So the thing you really want to do is you want to focus on fundamentals. So, what's your cash management? Things like that. How are we with payroll? Talk to the customers. What are they going to be doing? Do they know what they're doing? Do they know what they're not doing? Really take a look at your pipeline and what you thought was going to happen, and now think about it. Those might not happen. So you really just want to re-engineer things and really make sure you're on solid footing on that front. So that's one thing I would do. Panic, but pay attention to the details. Yeah.
Right. Kind of like a duck, you can panic under the water, but
yes, but you're very calm above the water. Yes.
That's a good analogy. That's good.
Yeah, I like that.
Great. Well, so, and then during COVID-19, what are some of the things that you talk to your clients? That's one of the things that we always tell people to do, that maybe just reach out to your clients, ask how they're doing. How did some of those things make a difference, or was there any particular things that made a difference during this time?
Yeah, I think, there's a number of things I could say about that, but we'll start with the clients. It's okay to talk with them. I know, from talking to, fellow business owners, sometimes it's, you don't want to have those conversations because you don't want your client to think that you're not in a good position, which it is a fair enough thing to be worried about. But, you just really need to have the rational discussion with them and say, listen, how are you doing? We want to see, how can we better serve you? And by knowing, as much as that'll help us adjust to make sure that, we are going to be in a good place, continue to do what you need us to do, and do something new if you need to pivot. I think it's a good time to have a lot of constructive conversations, which very well may lead you to a new area that you may not previously have thought about, which I think is the other side of this coin. How do you turn, something like this into an opportunity?
Mm-hmm. One of the things that we talk about with a lot of the Diversity Mastermind graduates, or when they're in the cohort, is that human element of reaching out to your clients and not having a sales conversation, just kind of having a
Right.
check-in conversation.
Right.
Have you done that a lot during COVID?
Yeah, I think we do it, a lot in general, and we definitely did it over the spring and summer. Talking with customers about what they were doing, and yeah, it's not. I think we try to not have a lot of salesy calls. I mean, there are times when you need to sell.
Right,
there are. It's part of owning a business. But there are times when you just want to check in, see what you're doing, see what is new is happening with them. And we, talk a lot. I think we talk a lot to our staff and our accountant, project managers, really just to kind of make sure that they're always listening to customers. We call it being a listening post. Everybody's collecting stuff, and what you hear is often much more important than what you say. So yeah, right. So I think we've been, pretty good with that, but we, definitely did it a little bit more, during the course of 2020. It is 2020, right? Okay.
I think,
Yeah.
I mean, 2020's lasted about 5 years at this point.
Yeah, right.
I always tell my kids, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. It's like the same thing, right?
Right, exactly, right. Yep.
Well, and you're in a unique position to do it because that's what you're doing. You're listening and then analyzing data. It's like, let's collect all this data and then let's analyze it.
Right, right. That's also a good analogy, yes.
So one of the things I want to talk about too is that you and Heather, you and Certify My Company have a relationship too. You guys formed a different joint venture called Supplier Diversity in a Box. Why don't you talk about that? How did that come about? And what was the opportunity that you two saw there?
All right, I can definitely talk about that. And I'm going to take you back in time, even pre-Supplier Diversity in a Box.
1960. No,
Yes, exactly. Picture it. So
actually,
yes,
just picture it. Diversity Alliance for Science, 2000 and whatever, right?
And whatever it was, right? 2000 and whatever. So I've talked about how Proximo does, a lot of work around data and analytics. And, we, about 6 years ago or so, what we decided to do from listening really to a lot of peers that we knew and we had worked with who are in supplier diversity, we saw that there was an opportunity or definitely a need around bringing real analytics to supplier diversity, being able to do much more than just, publishing a spend number and saying that's our analytics. You really want to get a deeper story. Analytics is used by all business units these days. Why not supplier diversity? So we kind of began in that space, and we have our Providor platform and services that are around that, delivering a lot of tailored analytics for our customers in supplier diversity. And then fast forward, a couple of more years, we were seeing a lot of success with that. But where we saw a need was, all right, we have these companies, primarily like Fortune 500 companies that have these well-established supplier diversity programs, but we saw it beginning to drift down market, or I should say through the supply chain. To your Fortune 1000, 2000, they don't have programs, but they are wanting to start for various reasons. So I began thinking about, well, how do you actually help those companies do it? Because, from our perspective, we can do the analytics for them, but they need a program to really make use of it.
You need to have something to analyze.
You got to have something to analyze, right? So started talking with Heather about doing that. And then we kind of framed something out and brought in another partner, Source One Innovations, that does a lot of supplier diversity consulting. Heather is well known and has a fantastic reputation for shepherding suppliers through the supplier diversity process and helping companies find suppliers and build out their programs that way. And we do the technology. So it was really everything supplier diversity in a box. You open up the box, you have all the pieces you need to start your own supplier diversity program. And that was the thought process behind it and how we got to where we are today. So
I'm actually going to add a little piece to that story because
Go
I
ahead.
know David from back when I lived in New Jersey, right?
Longer, yeah.
Like 5 babies ago, 4 babies ago. I don't even know. So I do all my timelines. And we kept saying, like, we're in the same world. Like, we really should do something together, right? Like, Liz, I talk about this all the time. If you know somebody who has a synergistic service offering to you, Like you can make a much bigger offering without having to take on all the other responsibilities of in-housing that, right? So, and then we would see each other a year later and be like, wait, I'd be like, what do you do again? And he'd tell me I'm like, why aren't we doing something together? So
Right.
we're sitting at Diversity Alliance for Science in Laguna Beach, and he's sitting next to me, and I'm like, tell me what you do again.
Right.
Now I'm living in the Vegas at this point, and I'm like, why aren't we doing something together? And he was like, actually, I've been having this thought, and so we finally just made it happen. We
Right.
executed finally, right?
Right,
That's
exactly.
awesome.
Yeah, Heather tells that part of the story better than I do. So I'm glad you did.
That's what it takes.
Collaboration, right.
Collaboration all around.
Yeah. Well, and I love too that it's like you have what you're doing, which it's hard to explain, right? Like Heather had to ask a bunch of times, like
Right.
data analytics, like how does it work? How do we do it? But then this way you're like, okay, let's simplify. So we have supplier diversity in a box.
Yes.
Right.
Which makes a lot of sense.
And you know, it's funny because David, you're actually one of the people that we tell a lot of stories about. I mean, they're all true. We tell a lot of stories about for the good as a good example of a way a certified diverse supplier can really leverage their certification, because you are very good about getting on boards and giving back and being part of different organizations. And we call that being a go-giver, right? Where you are giving, you're like kind of paying it forward and it will always come back to you. But you've done a lot with your certification over the however many years you've been certified, and then you recently became dual certified. And so tell us a little bit about how I know I'm totally taking us down a different rabbit hole, but
that's all right. This is
tell me. Tell us a little bit about if you had to give a supplier one piece of advice about how to leverage a certification, because as I said, we quote you all the time, we use you as well. What would that be? And give us an example of that.
Yeah, I'll start by saying what it shouldn't be, or what it definitely is not, and that is just an opportunity, to sell to a big corporation. Yes, it does open that door and all these other things that everybody thinks, but that cannot be all it is. It's got to be much more than that. You're selling itself and yourself a lot much shorter if you just do that. So through these certification agencies, you've got access to a lot of resources, which may be educational, but also comes in the form of other suppliers, like Diversity Masterminds, Certify My Company. I can literally say that since I've been certified, I've met hundreds, if not thousands, a couple of thousand suppliers who I see over the years, and not everybody's a terrific fit. But there are those that that are the right fit, both in terms of what you do and also in terms of like the value and the way you can work together, and those partnerships that allow you to do more than you can otherwise do on your own can open up a huge amount of doors. So you really have to look at it that way as well. And then the other thing that I would just put on that, your certification can open up lots of other avenues around education, mentorship programs. There's a ton of things like that, and if you're not taking advantage of those things, then you're really missing the boat. So yeah, it's a lot more than just a logo to put on your sales sheet and then waiting for RFPs to come in, because that's that's actually what I take away the least from it. That those things happen, but it's the other things that actually have led to growth.
Right. Agreed.
That's awesome. And so we're all in this space where we are giving back. Like Heather and I are getting together a guide of these are some certified companies that we love to use. What are some ways that you and Proximo are supporting other diverse businesses?
Yeah, I think part of that is the partnerships, where it opens up more opportunity for us, but it also opens up more opportunity for the person we're partnering with.
Yep.
And we're very intentional about that. We do have a supplier diversity program at Proximo. So we do like roughly around a third of our purchases are from diverse suppliers. So we're always looking to add folks in, and when we do opportunities, we actually do like RFXs. They're not the big Fortune 500 RFXs. They're like Proximo sized RFXs, but we go to diverse suppliers and see who we can, who's the best fit for us. And the other thing also is, we're very intentional, all the supplier diversity work that we do, whether it's around supplier diversity in a box or our Providor line. What we always do, it's a hard and fast rule. Every contractor that touches supplier diversity in a box or Providor is going to be a diverse vendor. It's certified diverse vendor, yes, because we've just got to walk that walk as well as talking about it. We just can't talk about diverse suppliers and then not have any. So
right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then that's added value too for your customers, where they're like, I can't find anyone. And you're like, well,
if they for a lot of things you can find a diverse supplier. You've just got to be willing to look and then do it. Yeah. But if we're selling to the supplier diversity person, then that's something we can give them, right. So all of your tier 1 and tier 2 spend is going to be diverse, around this particular project we're working.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I love you guys in so many ways. It's taking the advice that I feel like we're always given as diverse suppliers, right? Partner up, make a bigger offering.
Right.
What's your supplier diversity program? And it really is like, we talk about all these things in Diversity Masterminds, and it's like, see, this is why we use a lot of stories. We're like, see, it works.
Right.
It works. Great. Well, we were talking about good news before we started the recording, and one of the good news is that it looks like there's positive moves on the vaccine front in terms of coronavirus. But one of the things we like to ask people is, once we have a vaccine or what have you, and coronavirus goes away, what's one thing from this business unusual time that you would like to see stay?
Well, that's an interesting question. And I'm going to give you something that may not be the answer you're expecting. And one of the things, to give a little bit of context around Proximo, we've always been, or not always, but for over a decade now, we've been a telecommuting company. So plugged in work from home is really the way we operate. So that was a very easy adjustment for us. So I can say for 100% certainty, we will continue that mode afterwards.
Right.
And I think a lot of folks are now thinking about, is that the right model, for them, or, definitely not everybody being in one office. So, but what we did do, and I think this is, one of the things that I do intend to keep, we tried to provide more points of contact that weren't strictly around tactically what we were doing in the business. So yeah, we would do quarterly staff meetings, and teams would have their own meetings and all that sort of stuff. So we started town halls, especially early on. We're talking April, May, and June, when nobody knows anything about what's going on. Just to kind of talk about, how we're doing it at Proximo in between the formal staff meetings where we go over numbers. How are we doing as a company? How does that translate into your peace of mind as the employee? And, having some conversations around challenges. It's funny, we do a year-end retreat, and this year we did it in person last year. This year it's all going to be virtual, of course. Yes, Proxypalooza is online. But and we did, because we collect data, we did employee surveys and saying, what are the topics that you want to do? And one of the things that kind of came through is, that pandemic coping, because now you're just not working at home, because they're used to that, but everybody's working from home. The spouse, all the kids are there, and there's a lot of extra pressure that I think we've all felt. And so how do we, help with that? So we're going to be, one of our topics is going to be around that. And that's one of the things I think I want to, bring forward into 2021 and beyond. As a small company, I think a lot of small companies don't really have what I would call a big HR component. How do you have a lot of, personal development? You may have some professional development, but, there's not always a lot of things along those lines, and really trying to build out that function, that organization, so that we can do more around that in the coming year. I think will be important, since we'll still be dealing with it that year. And all I can say is 2022 or 2023, yeah, this may be behind us, but unfortunately something else is going to come. There's always something else.
Not another pandemic, David. Bite your
Hopefully
tongue.
not. No, I don't.
Come on, man.
I don't want that. No, but hey, it's like I said, 23 years. I thought I've seen everything, and then a pandemic comes along, so I don't know what will be next. But but that kind of thing will help you be prepared for the next thing, whatever that next thing happens to be.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. Even though you're doing everything right, there can still be more in terms of reaching out to your employees, right? Like we've got all our systems, our infrastructure is down, is right. We've got all that, but there's this human component that you can still work on.
Right. And I think that as, Certify My Company's team has always been virtual also. And so, but we're a bigger team than we've ever been. And I do find it very challenging to stay connected with everybody. Right. So I think that's so important what you're doing. As I said, so we talk about the supplier diversity managers, the human component. It's the human component with your team and your colleagues. Like, how are they doing? Need from you as the leader. It is very challenging because like, how long can you stare at a screen with people? You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
So it's hard to get that information from them and still get all the work done.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There is a lot that goes into that, especially as teams grow. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's probably a big challenge that a lot of leaders are facing, especially of like the small businesses where they've never had to, because if you can flip your chair in the office and be like, hey, so-and-so, how are you? Right. But now it's not that simple if you're virtual, right? No. And so just having that awareness to check in with them versus taking for granted that everything's okay with them.
Right. And the other thing, right, there is that I think everybody wants to hear from the top leader, which may be you, it may be me. But, you also have to build things out that allow them to work together as teams, even if you weren't there.
Yeah.
And that helps you do a few different things. First of all, because you can't be in all these meetings.
Right.
So you don't want them to be working alone. You need to give them a team and a team leader. And that also helps you scale. And that helps you weather pandemics and other things. So yeah, that type of workforce development is very, very important. And I think I've absolutely seen that, a lot over the past year. And I will say, I think we did pretty good with it. really pretty good. Our team really held up very well and accomplished a lot of things this year. And so, I think that, that goes to that kind of planning and also makes me want to do more of it. So we can add more people, so we can do more business.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you, David, so much. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Absolutely. You can reach out to me anytime you want. And I would say, find me on LinkedIn, David Ricciardi. There might be a couple of us, but I'm the one that pops up with this face. And you can also, everybody can email me if you want at dricciardi@proximo.com. But if you just go to info.proximo.com, there's a little secret that comes to me. So I will see it eventually. This way you don't have to spell Ricciardi.
Yeah. In Nevada, there's a HVAC company called Gettle. And they're always like, keeps you cool, but it's hard to spell. That's what they're like.
I like that line.
Keeps you analyzed, but it's hard to spell.
Well, awesome. And we'll put the closed captioning in so everyone will know
how to spell it.
All right, perfect. All right, great.
Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time on Business Unusual.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.